All right, welcome back to another Teams in 2 video. Frankly, this Teams in 2 might get a little longer than 2 minutes. Just fair warning, but I want to make sure I cover the topic. In this video, we are going to take a look at files in Microsoft Teams. This is one area that I tend to see a lot of confusion. People talk about Teams files and where Teams files stored and how that relates to SharePoint files. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. Again, it might be a little more than 2 minutes, but bear with us for this extended Teams in 2 video. All right, so let's dive over to the computer here and take a look at files in Teams. So I have my Teams environment again here, and I have some channels in here, and I'm over on my Files tab. Every team that you create is going to get its own SharePoint site. Every channel that you create is going to get its own set of files. So if I go in and create a new channel here, and let's just call this the server team within the IT department, we're going to go ahead and add this channel. It will add the channel to my team, and you will see I have a Files tab. This Files tab is different than the Files tab in general, where I do have one document. You may notice, if you've played with files in Teams, that up here you have Open in SharePoint. I'm going to jump over to my SharePoint site now, and this is where you'll see all the files. You can actually see Microsoft has added some things that says this folder is connected to a channel in Teams. Here's my demo document right here in SharePoint. I'm actually in Documents in General in my IT department SharePoint site. If I'm in my SharePoint site and I go ahead and let's create a new Excel file, and let's just go ahead and name our Excel file Teams in 2. We could put comments in here. This is some data. Now that we've added our data in here, let's go back to our SharePoint site. You can see now we have our Teams in 2 file here. And if we jump back to our team, and I'm just going to go ahead and refresh this general Teams files, there's our Teams in 2 file. Server team actually shares the exact same SharePoint site as our general channel does. So over here in Files, even though we can't see anything, we could go in here and create a new PowerPoint presentation this time. Let's do another Teams in 2. Go ahead and create our PowerPoint file. And from here, we're all set. It's saved. We can go back to our Teams and jump right back over to our SharePoint site, and we're still in General. But let's dive up to Documents. And now you can see we actually have a couple server team. This one is an old one. I can go ahead and delete it if I wanted to. But if I jump into server team, here's that same Teams in 2 presentation. So all of those files are stored in this SharePoint site. One mistake I often see people make when it comes to files in Teams and in SharePoint is they'll go back to Documents and actually upload or create files here. So if I would go click to upload a file, let's just upload this Book 1 Excel file, and that gets placed right here in the SharePoint site. However, this location at this top level isn't surfaced anywhere in Teams. So if I go back to my Teams environment and refresh it and jump back and forth between my server team and my general team, you will see that document is nowhere to be found. In order for these SharePoint files to be visible within your Teams environment in that Files tab, they do have to be in one of those folders that relates to a channel. One nice feature they have added in Teams now is you do have that ability to really do anything within your Teams environment that you can do within your SharePoint environment. If you have metadata, if you're used to working in SharePoint with metadata and with documents, and you would add a column in here and go ahead and save it. And maybe you're used to going in and adding metadata to these. So we can go add some Teams in 2 metadata, Word document, go ahead and save that. Let's jump right back to our team now. And we were doing that at those Files tabs. You'll see I now have this metadata as well that's visible to me in Teams. I can go in and sort, filter, group by. All of that functionality that I have in my SharePoint site is now available within my Files tab within Microsoft Teams. I also have my views up here. So I can go save a view as, edit my current view. So let's save this view as my Teams in 2 view. Go ahead and save it here. And now I have Teams in 2, I have all documents, and just like we've seen before, if I jump back over to SharePoint now, and I'm just gonna refresh this, make sure I get all my changes, and look at my views here, I now have that same Teams in 2 view in my all documents view. So when you start looking at files in Teams and files in SharePoint, don't think of those as two separate things. Files in Teams are files in SharePoint. SharePoint is simply the backend driving all of the files in Teams. Changes you make in SharePoint are reflected in Teams. Changes you make in Teams are going to be reflected in SharePoint. So that's just a general overview. Just like with a normal SharePoint site, you can go in and sync this content if you want to. You can go in and use your other copy, move files, upload files. You have all that same functionality in Teams where you can copy links, you can actually make a file a tab, but then you have all of your move, your copy functionality, your checkout functionality, all that same functionality in SharePoint. So again, don't think of these as two separate things. Think of them as two different ways to get to the same files. They are SharePoint files. One way is you go through Teams to get through your SharePoint files. Another way is you access your SharePoint files straight in SharePoint. And all those changes are happening in both environments due to the fact that Teams files really are just a rendering of that SharePoint files. Sorry, this one got a little longer than 2 minutes, but I hope that helped you understand files in Teams and files in SharePoint and how they relate to each other, or are really the same thing, a little bit better. Oh, and by the way, if you want more of these videos, as always, click subscribe, click the bell to get notifications, and let us know in the comments any other videos that you want to see on our channel here. Thanks again.